It's in, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Oh, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Franklin Planning Board meeting, December 18th, 2023. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom, and the Zoom call-in number is 312-626-6799 with a meeting number of 946-765-54652. Tonight we'll take care of general business tonight. We have 5 to 6 items at first. So we'll take our first item of business, which would be Balsam Estates, the preliminary subdivision. And I see that, if I'm correct, Amy, you're looking to withdraw without prejudice? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. They've requested to withdraw without prejudice. The planning board needs to take a vote on that. If they don't agree with that, then they would have to take a vote on the preliminary subdivision with the waivers. But they have you guys have the choice to take a vote to accept the withdrawal.
Okay. All right, so do I hear a motion to accept the withdrawal for Balsam Estates?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Our next item of business would be a field change for 515 West Central Street. I go to Amy.
Sure, thank you,
Give us
Mr. Chairman.
Overview, please.
So they've had a couple field changes that we felt that was important to put in front of the board. Beta has been out there and has a report as well. They want to do an installation of permeable pavement in place of the previously proposed Stormcrete pervious pavers north of the building. And then there's slight changes to the retaining wall. They will need to go in front of conservation as well for these changes, so it's not just in front of the planning board, but it will be in front of conservation.
Okay, good. I guess before I go to the board, and Mike's online too, just?
No, Mike is not
Mike is not,
available
okay.
tonight.
Matt, did you review this one, or did Gary?
Yes, I did. Yes.
If I can go to you, Matt, for an overview, please?
Yes, thank you, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So just wanted to note that early on when they were considering these field changes, Beta did do a very high-level overview of the retaining wall. Since then, the engineer of record has submitted a response indicating that those issues have been addressed. We don't have any additional review on the wall to perform, so just wanted to note that for the board that we're not doing any more review on the wall. Regarding the pervious pavement, we did have a couple of comments, and I'll just go through them. This is for the access around the back side of the building for the waste collection as well as fire access. We just noted that they should confirm that the proposed thickness of 3 inches is sufficient for fire vehicle loads, noting that coarse pavement is not typically have the same load-bearing capacity as conventional pavement. Also, to be in conjunction with the typical details in the stormwater handbook, the bottom of the pervious pavement surface reservoir should be flat to promote recharge. There's certainly a lot of groundwater out there, and we know that they're kind of up against the battle. But in the summertime, or when water levels stabilize, we certainly want to see that ability to recharge the water through the pervious pavement rather than just drain it towards the front. They should update the operation maintenance plan to be consistent with what they're proposing now. The O&M plan was more specific, proprietary to what the Stormcrete system was. So the subdrains from the porous pavement are going to be redirected to the front of the site into the existing infiltration basin. We think it's good to direct the groundwater there to try to get it back into the ground. But we just wanted to note that it should be monitored, make sure that it does get back into the ground and you're not essentially creating a permanent pool. If a permanent pool is there, they may have to go back to the drawing board to monitor it, do some changes, or recheck their calculations. In the end, I don't think that there's going to be any compliance issues with the stormwater. However, there were some inconsistencies in the initial stormwater documents. And we just want to get those kind of the T's crossed and the I's dotted.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Mr. Dorico. sorry, go ahead, Matt.
And also worth noting, it is my understanding that the most critical item for construction to continue out there is the retaining wall. It's also my understanding that the Conservation Commission, heard this last Thursday and approved the retaining wall portion of the project only.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, we'll go to the applicants first. If you guys want to introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Sure, I'm Mike Gossett with Joe Yard Helmont. This is Ben Stone with Stukel Group. And like I said, we're putting the field changes to replace the pervious pavers with permeable asphalt. That runs from the right side of the building all the way around the back. And then over here, it's not for primary vehicle access again, it's just for the dumpster removal and emergency access. As you said, there's going to be an underdrain that runs down the center underneath there. We're happy to make the changes that is requested, but that will connect into the existing, the proposed catch basin and drain manhole that runs the surface runoff over into the wall, the Lenny's drainage system. And then in addition, we came back with the full wall design that's been revised from a single face wall to a tiered wall. No expansion of the outlet clearing is proposed. So I'm going to give them, roughly the same footprint, just coming back with the official wall design so you guys have a chance to look at it, review it, and comments.
Excuse me.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to go over them.
Okay, good. I guess I'll go to the board first. I have some questions, but I'll go to the board if anybody has any questions. Chris, Jay?
I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
Through the chair, to, I guess, Amy or Matt, if you know this, did Concom, you said they approved the change in the retaining wall, but did they have anything, were they objecting to the change in pervious surface type? Or did they have any commentary on that, or?
I'm not sure of the full discussion, but I will note that the previous surface was a porous concrete surface, and this is going to a porous pavement type surface. I believe they had to do pervious back there because if they put conventional asphalt, that would have exceeded the amount of impervious they can put within the buffer zone. But I'm not sure of the exact discussion at the meeting.
And I can speak to that if you'd like. So we're just waiting for pending response to Matt's comments and resolving those. So they weren't objecting to the premise. It was just crossing the T's, as he said.
Thanks.
Okay, good. I actually had one of those questions. Can you just have Conservation Commission confirm that to make sure there's no issue? The change of asphalts?
Mm-hmm.
Just make sure it's documented.
You like a letter from
Yeah.
the Concom agent or?
Yeah, just to make sure it's followed through, okay? Obviously, you're gonna get test reports and inspections for the backfill and the back of the wall as you bring it up. Okay. The second question I had, I saw it was 8-foot max on the wall. It looks like you got a little bit more of a height back there than 8 feet. What are your thoughts there?
When you say 8 feet max on the wall, what is it?
I believe the design showed that it was an 8-foot max that it can go to.
So it's a tiered wall,
Yep.
so it's 2 tiers. And so the individual tier, the highest section is 17 feet. And then there's a 3-to-1 slope in between them. So I think, we didn't do the wall design, so I'm not an expert on the wall design, but my understanding is no individual wall is 8 feet tall.
No individual tier will.
But the combined walls
Okay.
will exceed up to 17 feet in only one particular corner, and it rapidly reduces size. So in this back right corner, that's where it's at 17 feet, and then as you go left and right, it quickly reduces in wall height.
Okay, you know what, where I thought it was page 2 of 2 is item H, height of wall 8-foot max. The top left corner in the general notes. Just want to make sure looks like you have 4-block, 2 tiers. Just want to make sure that's sufficient. Top left, item H.
Yeah, same for the section.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
That's for the calculation. As I said, we didn't run the calculations ourselves, but
I just want to double check, that's all. Just
Okay.
quick review. The only thing I didn't see on this was a fence on the top of this wall as well. There should be a fence on the top of this wall as well. And I can't remember if it was originally on
so I
the first
believe-
one, but I want to make sure that's on this drawing as well.
I believe it may not be shown on this drawing as this is not the site layout plan set. It's just for grading utilities was the base set for these changes. But I believe that there was a fence.
Could you put it
If
on
not,
this,
if on the top of the wall, then along the tree line preventing access.
could you put it on this drawing as, because the wall changed a little bit with the layout, I'm sure, so just put it on that drawing as an update.
Yeah, we would be happy to provide a fence on top of the wall.
Chain link fence, I believe, I think that's what it was originally on the drawing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have a 6-foot vinyl going on.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yep.
Vinyl on the top, okay.
6-foot vinyl.
Okay, thank you. And I have one other quick one on the impervious is, and I'll defer to you on Matt, isn't there a maintenance plan for keeping that swept in a certain period of time so it doesn't
Yes,
fill up
and
in the
that's one of the
pond?
things that
That's what Matt
was
was.
asking us to update.
Okay.
Because we have it in there for the specific procedures for the storm creek pavers, and these will update to be for the more generic permanent pavement.
Okay, good, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Chris?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, you'd mentioned that it's going to be for emergency access only. Will there be any markings on the pavement to delineate do not enter or emergency access only so parents aren't driving around the building after pickup or post pickup or anything like that?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
There's actually gates down here as well, so like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Kid drop off, there's a fence here, and then the access from Wendy's parking lot has a roller gate.
And yes, like, they're not labeled on this plan, but there are 2 signs right here facing out, so those are the 2 enter signs.
Great. Thanks very much.
Good, thank you. Okay, so we want to get back on the Concom, so we'll continue.
I recommend like putting together the whole list of the items that the board talked about tonight, and then coming back. It's just general business, so
Yeah.
when you get everything together, they can come back whenever they're ready
That's
to
fine.
present in front of the board, if the board agrees, and with all these, with the recommendations.
And then clear everything up with Matt and Mike, whatever.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would it be possible for the board to authorize the work on the wall? As Matt's letter said, and as Ben has illustrated, if we have to wait until the next hearing for construction on the wall to begin, that's going to probably result in a work stoppage, is that correct? And so we'd like to get that portion approved while we address Matt's comments on the pervious pavement. And then come back and present you on that part.
I'm okay with it, I'll look at this, board, I know time is of essence. You're okay with that, Matt?
Yes, we're deferring the
wall-
review
the
to,
wall's
as long
fine.
as Gus is fine with the permits, then we're all set with it.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so you can start with the wall, and then all the
Mhm.
other paperwork and all the other things will get squared.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
For general business, okay?
May I just ask first for clarification, so the wall in concept has been discussed at Concom, and you're waiting for their comments back, or did you say the wall has been?
The wall has been approved, similar to what we just requested of you.
Yep.
They've authorized us to proceed
With the wall.
with the installation of the wall.
So make a motion to allow them to move forward with the wall portion of their field change, but come back to us with further details.
Wait a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're all set. Thank you.
very much.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
All right, our next next item of business would be a partial Form H for 115 Constitution Boulevard.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Chris McCarthy from High Point Engineering. We're here for a partial Form H. There's some stuff that needs to be, or work that needs to be completed in the spring, but the client wants to get moving on this so they can get their certificate of compliance to be able to move in.
Okay, good, thank you. Amy, if you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the planning board approved a site plan at 115 Constitution Boulevard on July 25th, 2022. The site plan included additional parking, landscaping, and site improvements. I also know that they also had a separate building permit to also improve the facade and some of the interior stuff of the building. So they're here for their partial Form H in order to be able to get a temporary occupancy permit for the building. And Beta has been out there and provided a report.
okay, can I go to you, Matt, if I could, please?
Sure, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just a couple of updates on some of the work items that they need to address. They did include some on the Form H themselves. They do still need to install the bollards adjacent to the outdoor seating area. My report notes that they were to be installed on 12/15, however, it's been updated to 12/19 is when they intend to install those. We observed that the bollards for the EV charging stations, which were originally proposed in the sidewalks themselves, are now just in front of the curb line, so that should improve passing space along the sidewalk. Just noted that the temporary modular units for construction are still located at the back of the site. We anticipate when everything's done at the site, they'll be moved away. I know the board had some concerns with vehicles being able to encroach into the accessible parking areas. So as you can see in the photo, they didn't install the curb stop at the front of one of the accessible spaces, so it's my understanding that they plan to do that still. And I think that, one last thing to note was the two most easterly parking spaces. There's no curbing installed in front of those. However, we did note that there's bollards in front of those spaces and that there wasn't anything specifically noted on the plan. We don't think the intent was to put a curb there. We just want to bring that to the board's
That's
attention.
correct, that's correct. This is an existing condition, we just left it.
Okay, I guess, I just had a couple of quick questions, but I'll go to the board first. Does anybody have any questions? No? I just had one quick question on your schedule of completion. You have restriping the existing parking lot to be done in the spring, but it's just September 15, 2024.
Well, that's a, yeah, I
Can
guess
that-
that's a
can that get
typo.
done?
They wanted to delay all that. There's some patching they want to do, and with all the trailers in the back there, they didn't want to, with all the in and outs, and, you know, they didn't want to paint it and then run all over it with pulling out all the, you know, all the trailers and stuff and ruin all of it.
So is this where the temporary trailers are then?
No, but it's adjacent to it. It's right in the back there.
So it's not going to impede any means of entry?
No,
to
and
the
they have
building?
plenty of
Correct.
parking. It's more of a zoning compliance issue.
Okay. I just like to see if that could get done sooner than later, just because of striping, that's all.
Yep.
And I see the bollards, the granite bollards were back ordered.
Yeah, they were gonna, like Matt said, they were gonna put them in Friday, but they got delayed, and I think then with the weather, they said, no, let's just wait. So they're gonna do it tomorrow, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Really hear from them?
Don't have any issues, and provided those other items get addressed.
Okay. So, a motion to approve the partial Form H for 115 Constitution Boulevard. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then our next item of business would be a partial Form H for 332 East Central Street. Amy, if you want to give us a run?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the planning board approved this project back in October 5th, 2020. And includes 2 residential and commercial retail space. I know that the commercial and retail space already has their partial Form H approved. I know tonight that they are looking for building B, which would be the back building of the property, which is referred to 332. We might have 340 on some of our stuff because the whole site was kind of approved as 340 East Central Street. So they've since renumbered it. So I just I'll say 332 because they renumbered it since. Beta's been out there and provided an observation report, and I believe that they also have, Beta's also provided updated since this came in. There's been a lot more work that's been done at the site, so I'll refer to Beta to provide an update on that as well as the applicant.
I go to you, Matt, if you could give us an overview, please.
All right, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We visited the site several times and came up with a pretty decent list of items, which included both typical safety items that you would see on a Form H. But while we were out there, we just really noted everything that was outstanding, even non-safety items, to create sort of a punch list to go by in the future. That list was provided to the applicant last week, and it's my understanding that through the later part of last week and through the weekend, they addressed quite a few of the items out there. I have provided an updated sheet, more or less adding some context to each of the items. I sort of front-loaded the items that were more critical at the front of the report and kind of tacked it back to punch list type stuff at the end. I can go through each bullet, or at least start out going through them, if that'd be the board's preference. One of the things that we wanted to make sure of, there was some modification from the site driveway adjacent to the buildings. It's a one-way, and it was different than on the approved plans. It called for a striped crosswalk out there. It was actually revised to be a completely concrete walk with detectable warnings out there. That work was done in coordination with MassDOT. It's my understanding that MassDOT has reviewed the work and has approved all of that, so we have no additional questions on that. The striping for the traffic turnaround spaces adjacent to the entrance, if you recall, those were installed because there was some concern that someone backing out of those spaces would end up backing into the driveway when someone was coming in. So those have been striped to provide that safety mechanism. One thing that is in the process of being addressed, it couldn't be addressed today because of the weather, there's a water valve box in between the two buildings connecting the water loop. That just needs to be raised off the pavement so it has access for operations. Another thing that we noticed out there is they installed a flush accessible ramp along all 3 parking spaces, which is actually good for someone who's going on the sidewalk, but it does allow the ability of a car to encroach on those. So they have installed bollards so that a car can no longer trespass on those spaces. There was one of the curb ramps adjacent to Building B that it had non-flared sides. In other words, the curbs were sticking straight up next to it. They've cut those down. They've added a detectable warning on the opposite side of the crosswalk. One of the critical items was that they hadn't striped the crosswalk from the buildings over to their retail area. So they have striped those now, and you have a full accessible route from the residential buildings over to the retail space. It's also my understanding that there was about a half-inch lip on the wheelchair ramp. They have gotten that down to a quarter inch, which will meet ADA compliance.
Okay.
One of the remaining items that they need to address is an area drain at the front corner of the patio. When we were out there, you can see that the mulch was getting washed out. I'm sure with the heavy rain that happened again today. It's my understanding they're going to address that this week. It's also my understanding that they already have the pipe installed underneath, so it's really just adding the drain to connect to it.
Okay.
We did note that the east side of the concrete patio outside of front of Building A does look pretty steep out there. So we've kind of deferred to the engineer of record on that just to confirm if there's any compliance issues, and we're also deferring to Gus as well, the building commissioner, just to make sure there's no issues with the patio slopes. We did note that one side of the dumpster access pad really has kind of a steep grade to it. We don't anticipate that a dumpster vehicle would have trouble getting there with the forks coming out of it, but we just want to note it just to make sure the applicant can confirm that they can still access it. Some of the slopes still need to be stabilized with riprap out there. The riprap is on site, they just need to wait for the weather to get better. confirmed that one of the DMHs, one of the drainage manholes was not installed. That was based upon a revised design with the underground system, which was approved. Again, not an issue. We did note there was a hump in the pavement from a shallow catch basin. No safety concerns, might get beat up by the plows a little bit. That's just gonna be an ongoing maintenance thing. Fire lane gates are installed. Plantings will need to be done in the spring. Actually, it's only the ones behind the dumpster pad. There's 3 or 4 plantings behind there. We defer to the board if they want those installed. It would be wedged in between 2 pieces of fence, so I don't think the plantings are going to be seen, but that's up to the board. Drainage covers inadvertently marked as sewer have been swapped out for drain covered letters, and the visitor parking spaces have now been striped with visitor on them. So I do note that the pictures provided in the report have not been updated with any of the new work. I have gotten photo documentation on many of the items, not all the items, but I've given the context behind it.
Good, thank you, Matt. Before I go to you, Mr. Allen, anybody from the board, any comments,
Couple questions, yeah. Yes, through the chair, for Joe. It says the site plan work completion list, the outstanding items, all that's left is the as-built review for the Form H final. Seems to me there's still some outstanding issues that are listed with Beta. So I think that should be updated to reflect the outstanding items versus only Form H being the last item.
Well, they still have to come back for building aid too, so we can.
Right, I
they can
just,
correct
if we
that.
decide to accept this as it's submitted, it's saying that
Oh,
the outstanding
yes.
work left is a Form H, which is inaccurate based
which-
upon this list from Beta. So I just don't want to approve something that does have outstanding items.
Yeah, so we can, okay, good, no, point taken.
And then I guess my only other question for you would be for Matt. Matt, in your opinion, are there any life safety issues right now that stand out to as not being completed yet, or have they been updated?
Nothing apparent.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like a safe site. It looks like it's generally ready to be used, occupied.
Just the minor
On the
ones?
exterior, I haven't seen anything on.
No, I'm
Yeah.
on the site,
Yeah.
the site as it pertains to planning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so this is only for building B, so which was the rear building anyways. Building A has the patio out front, we want to make sure, we want to get
Correct.
confirmation on that. The handicap ramps, sounds like you addressed.
Everything that Matt had given me, we got this list on Thursday, I had a crew out there Friday and Saturday. We would've had 99% of this done had it not rained today. The riprap's on site, that would've been put behind the electric transformer. One of the hoods is on site, I just didn't wanna put a guy in a catch basin today with all the rain. That hood will go on, it's a 5-minute job. And the only thing I would like to get from the board permission is behind the dumpster, that's about a 20-25 foot length, double or triple dumpster pad. Totally enclosed with vinyl fence. And a 1.5 feet behind that, we have a chain link with the black slats. You literally have this much behind you to force a couple of shrubs behind you. But there's all riprap behind you, nice now, but it wouldn't work to put shrubs back there.
I'm fine with that, as long as there's trap, as long as there's riprap behind it to
Oh, yeah.
catch for the overflow. I'm okay with that.
And the dumpster, just remind me, the dumpster pad, the chair is screened behind in the back.
It's
Right.
screened along the whole
And then-
insurance
and-
property,
And-
and
And the screen.
it's
Okay.
vinyl,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
it's impossible to even see a tree if it was growing back.
Yeah.
okay.
Other than that, everything else will be taken care of. This is just a partial. So when we come back for final, Kerrigan Hanlon has 99% of that as-built completely finished. We project to be back here in 30 to 60 days to finalize the whole site, everything done, everything addressed.
Okay, good. Now, I still have one question, what about the lavender colored trim?
Lavender color.
The white trim has got, I think, it's got a purplish tone to it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's numerous people.
I'll look tomorrow, I didn't see that, so white.
It's got a slight hue to
They
it.
call it
You can
pink.
tell in the photos.
Colorblind Joe.
I only see green.
I'd like to make sure that one's resolved. Just that-
Pastel.
I don't remember seeing that one come through in the written
Yeah.
drawings, to tell you the truth, but that's okay.
Yeah, the colors could improve.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the partial Form H for Building B at 332 East Central Street with the conditions of Matt's most updated Beta report from December 12th of 2023, showing the differences
Just being added to the outstanding items.
in, to the outstanding. Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item of business would be for 238 Cottage Street, a site plan. Amy, could go to review, please?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a property located at 238. It was actually previously known as 34 Saxon Street, but somehow the address got changed. It's also known as Downtown Sports. They had come in to change over half the building for a daycare a while ago, back on, it got approved, actually, not too long ago, a year and a half ago, from June 6, 2022, to approve for indoor space for a daycare. And one of the conditions was if they were to use the outside site, they would have to come back to the planning board to allow for the outdoor site. So this is why they're in front of the planning board tonight. They would like to add fencing and use some of the area along their entrance of the building to add an outdoor playground with fence. We do have a comment from Mike, since I know that.
Say that.
Yeah, so he's just noted, if any trees or existing curb are to be removed, it wasn't clear which curb or if any in the paved area would also be removed. So I just make sure that what they're doing is not town-owned part of it.
Okay, good. And Matt didn't review this, obviously.
No, he did not. We did not ask for his
So
review.
if you want to go, if you want to introduce yourself for the board? and
Sure.
Give us an overview, please.
For the record, my name is Mike Hassett, here with Gary and Halnon. As Amy went over, we're here looking for permission to construct an outside play area along Cottage Street. It's a 1,500 square foot outdoor play area. It's going to be between the existing building, and there's two islands with concrete curb between Cottage Street and kind of along the property line. Those islands are to remain. We're not going to touch any of that curb. So basically the play area will extend to the face of curb, and then that will be it. No interior reconfiguration or expansion of use is proposed. That's really it. I think the existing pavement, there's like a sidewalk running through this area right now. That would be removed, and a more suitable material for a play area would be installed.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go to the board first because I have a couple of questions. Jen, you want to go?
Sure. Through the chair, can you, well, maybe this isn't a question, this is just my observation. This is a high circulation area currently as the use of the building exists when sports are occurring on the interior, everyone parking to plan right. I guess that's true ease, but walks on that sidewalk to get to the front door of the building, and there's no sidewalk on that side of Cottage Street, right? So you're forcing all the patrons who are going from parking on the east side of the street to go out onto Cottage Street to get to the front door of the building?
They would not need to do that. They could walk through the parking area.
Nobody's
come
gonna
around.
walk on the back side of the building. I've been there many times,
Mhm.
especially in winter, which is a lot of when this facility is used, indoor sports just all year round. A lot of kids, a lot of parents, a lot of traffic coming in and out of the site, especially changeover or different functions going on. And I don't think it would be safe to eliminate the pedestrian pathway from the parking on the right side of the site or the east side of the site to get to the front door. So while I fully understand the need for,
Yeah, the owner. is
sure,
there.
if you can answer that for me, that would be helpful.
Good evening, hello.
Chair.
Sure.
Yeah.
My name's Rich Frangelo, and I'm familiar with the space. So the hours, first of all, for the preschool are when there's no other activity going on. So your biggest concern about other traffic going on there is relevant at different times of the day, but not at the time that this would be used. So the intent of this project is that we would have good gates along that existing asphalt paved walkway, and that those would be allowed in off hours, off preschool hours, to continue to the same flow that we have today.
So, okay, thank you for clarifying that. So is there a way to ensure, you know, snow removal, et cetera, that when daycare is not in operation, those gates are always open?
They have to be, it's in our own best interest, right, for the reasons you said.
Yeah.
Right, we gotta have safe passage from the parking lot as we do today. So, yeah, I don't know, to ensure, we have to do it.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
Okay, that's just my primary concern is the safety of people getting from parking over to the front door. And can you, through the chair, also clarify, are there, I forget when your daycare hours end versus when indoor activities for the other areas for sports, et cetera, start? You know, especially in the winter months, like now after school, you know, if daycare is still going on and you do have people using the rest of the facility, kids are arriving 2:30, 3 o'clock, now has that become an issue because there is overlap between the daycare hours and the sports that are happening inside, especially when it starts to get dark out at 4 or 4:30? Can you just
Yeah,
clarify
there's
the
no-
hours of
there's no
operation
overlap.
for me? There's no overlap at all?
Preschool ends at 3:30 and all our
Okay.
programs start after that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So are you guys planning to add any parking protection or vehicular protection along the parking lot side? Because right now it's only a 4-foot vinyl fence, and that can't stop me.
You're speaking along here.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I was thinking bollards there.
Yeah.
There's nothing proposal on that fence. I think your preference now is to go with a wooden fence, is that correct? Or do you want the vinyl fence?
Yeah, we never, I don't know how vinyl got in there, but
Yeah.
wood is probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
But the protection of the curb from the Cottage Street side is a concrete curb, right? So it's just a curb.
At least on the parking lot side, I think you guys should add some sort of protection there, bollards or something substantial, you know, if someone,
Definitely want bollards on the right
someone
side.
loses it going backwards, you don't need them.
Because don't forget, you have a winery opening up shortly as an adjoining neighbor.
Mhm.
They'll be drinking, so.
Yeah, they're gonna be drinking, but they're not gonna be drinking at preschool hours.
You never know.
You never know.
Never. I understand.
Still want bollards on the right
Yeah,
side.
that's just inappropriate.
That's
right
just,
there.
yep, just because you have a parking lot and somebody pulling in, backing out,
Yeah.
absolutely. What's the distance, I'm trying to find it, what's the distance from the edge of the fence to the edge of the road? Because I see numerous, and I want to ask one more question. Wasn't there a drop-off area in front of the school? when you
Drop-off
last
area.
came?
The drop-off area is, as you're looking at the building, is to the right of where the proposed fence is.
Is that your shaded area? Is that what you consider in the drop-off?
This is the drop-off area from what I recall.
Well, I thought there was gonna be a drop-off in the front too, for some reason. Was I incorrect in saying that? Could be wrong.
There's a
Okay.
hatch
So they were
there.
parking
Yeah,
in the parking
okay.
lot, from what
So-
I remember.
From the existing daycare center, you're gonna walk out the door, past the planters, cross in front of the existing practice area space to get into the fenced area. Is that how I'm seeing that?
I'm sorry, could you?
You're walking out the front door from the daycare, and you're
Mhm.
gonna take a right, and you're gonna pass in front of the existing practice area.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I believe that would be the primary route.
That's gonna
yeah.
be the, okay.
And then to address your question from before, from the distance from the edge of the play area to the edge of Cottage Street, I would estimate somewhere in the range between 10 and 15 feet.
From the outside edge of fence to the edge of curb.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, if a snowplow goes by, that wing plow's gonna throw snow. And you'll wipe out your fence.
So in this case, it is rather heavily protected. There's actually a utility pole right there. And so that'll keep them honest when they're plowing on that edge.
Go ahead.
It looks like your, kids exiting the daycare would have to go on the sidewalk to then go into the play area. I assume that, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably propose it on this side of the building, so that way circulation from the daycare parking to the front door was uninhibited. Is there any way to flip the operation at all so that the play area is directly accessed from the daycare area and, parents parking or drop off? I don't know.
So as a matter of, I
Concerned
think that's
with everyone
mostly a
coming so
matter
close to
of
the
preference,
street.
but it would also not just be in front of the daycare area, it would also end up being in kind of in front of the Franklin Youth Center office and another exterior office.
Okay, so those doors, to the chair, are open and accessed and used during normal operating hours?
I believe so, he could speak to it better than I could.
During preschool hours, the only doors that are in use are the downtown sports entrance, Franklin Youth Soccer hours in the next space. Their office hours are Tuesday and Thursday evenings, so they don't compete. There is a business that has an office, they don't use it as a main entranceway on the corner of the building closest to Saxon Street.
So,
Okay.
I just want to confirm one more thing about access through the gated area. So when the daycare is not open, those two gates are going to be open all the time for people to cut through, so they have to walk out to the street?
Correct?
Is that's the thought process?
Yes.
Can you go up to the mic? Sorry, just,
Just up
we
to
can
this
hear you, but
chair.
people
Yeah.
online
Yeah,
won't be able to
people
hear you.
online can't hear.
If you can speak it to the mic.
That one could be a tough one.
Yeah,
I'm just,
it's a tough stop.
I'm almost, chances are somebody's gonna shut the gates and somebody's gonna walk out in the street and get clipped.
Or people just aren't gonna wanna walk through a playground.
Yeah, I mean, if there's whatever may be in there, who knows?
It's a
Protection
walkway, it's a
purposes.
paved path.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Sure, yeah, I'm just concerned about that.
I'm curious I know you have lots of regulations that you have to follow for daycares and whatnot. When you're in session and you have kids in a playground area, do those gates have to lock or can they remain unlocked?
Yeah, they can remain unlocked.
They can remain unlocked. That's surprising. Okay. And I guess my next question is, you mentioned that there's no overlap, so the daycare stops at 3:30 and programs start after that. What is after that?
Most days, in the busiest times of the year, is 4 o'clock.
Okay, and so you have a half an hour to get people out of the daycare and into their cars and leave before you have more cars coming in, which we know I'll have people drop kids off early and whatnot, so I mean, that's probably not gonna happen. But like during school vacations, you guys have athletic programs happening during the day or only after 4 p.m.?
During school vacations.
Yeah,
We will only have programs during school vacations when preschool is not active.
okay,
So
so
when
your
preschool is out of session, then,
Your
yeah, we would have
preschool
that.
is only, follows a typical school session program. Okay. So there'll be no overlap.
Yeah, the issue that you're digging into about, times between, and we deal with that every day, all day.
Sure.
People coming and going for different programs. So we've got at least a 15-minute gap everywhere for that sort of thing. But-
Okay. I guess I'm just a little concerned about the gates are going to somehow stay open or closed and locked and only be a 15-minute span between when people coming in and out of the building and walking around the parking lot, much like Jen is, but.
Well, the play space isn't used right up till 3:30, right? So it's only certain hours of the day, usually it's in the mid-morning. So it's not like everything has to happen at 3:30, everyone's leaving, till gates are opening, people coming and going, so we do have to manage that.
Through the chair, and I guess, is Mike online? He's not.
No.
The area planting, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought my phone was on silent. I'm the worst. Telemarketer. The area of planting directly to the north of where your proposed play area is that owned by the town, or is that your property? The planted area curb to curb that separates the play area and your current sidewalk from Cottage Street?
Yeah, it's town.
Edge of curb from street to the island, up against the grass strip to the sidewalk.
Yes,
is what she's
the
asking.
island is almost entirely on town property.
I guess my next question then would be to whoever would pay for it, I'm not sure, but is there any way to have a sidewalk in that location so that a continuous sidewalk runs by the enclosed area of downtown sports? And that way it can remain open
I
the
was thinking,
entire.
I was thinking the same thing, because I have reservations about the gate being open, and, yeah, you know, I guess the other thing is, you don't wanna leave those gates open with people coming in. Who knows who's gonna get in behind that fenced area? If it's a vinyl fence or something, you can't see them too. So, I'm just thinking for security purposes,
It's a 4-foot fence.
yeah, but people can be mischievous, if you know what I mean. I'd like to see the sidewalk to the outside of that fence, so it's a free and clear run on the way by.
If I may, through the chair.
Sure. Your name?
Hi, Amanda Cavalieri with Garrier and Heckman. If I may, can I share the screen real quick?
Sure.
All right, can everybody see that okay? I just wanted to jump in a little bit here, just to kind of go over a couple of things, and I apologize, for not jumping in a little sooner. As far as this proposed play area, just for a little bit more clarification, so there's about 14 feet between the edge of the fence and the granite curb. So you get a 6-inch granite curb, vertical granite curb on this side. This area is landscaped. There's hatching here, obviously, for no parking, utility pole. And for this area, downtown sports property line stops at this dark line right here. So anything beyond this line going north is town-owned property. So there's really not much we can do within the town-owned right-of-way. So their limits are within their property outside of the right-of-way. And there is an emergency exit in the existing basketball court. Rich, I don't know if you'd be opposed to having the children, instead of coming outside and going to the play area, but since they're off hours and they're not going on, not the same hours as the activities, that if the kids could go outside through that door, when it's time to play, that these gates would be closed for them. Being the 4-foot wooden fence, it's, you know, it's low enough that the number of children that are out there, I believe, from what was approved back in 2022, we had a total of 1 teacher per 10 children, 2 teachers if there's 11, and there was no overlap as far as the activities go, and that was approved under the limited site plan for change in use back in 2022. So as far as parking, overlap, site circulation, that was all discussed previously under the limited site plan for the change in use. The existing daycare is this area right in here, and that's it. As far as area goes, I'm just gonna go here. This area is, the area for daycare is about 1,500 square feet. So there's not a significant amount of children that are there, you know, during the day, and there's a limited capacity on that based on the number of teachers, the area, and what Rich has worked out with the education department for the state. So this is just an extra added outdoor play area so the kids can get a little bit of run time during their time at the school. And then when the kids get picked up and there is no overlap, there's about a half hour, and that was something that was worked out with the board during the last time the project was reviewed and approved. So just wanted to add a little bit more clarification in there. I know Mike wasn't involved in the original permit for the change in use for this this section, and the rest of the facility is associated with Downtown Sports and RJF Property Holdings. So that's just to give the board a little bit more of an overview of the project and the area that they're looking to get approved for this evening. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to help out, or Mike can address anything that I missed.
Okay,
Thank you.
I was gonna, let me go to Chris first. He had his hand up for a bit.
Just concerning the emergency exit door, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That fence is going to be closing off that area that accesses the street. It looks like that was almost purposeful to be left open with the curb cut being there, that there was some means of wanting to egress out, whether it be for emergency services or whatnot. Now closing that off, does that pose a potential problem for maybe not the business owner, but for town services, et cetera, that emergency access would no longer be accessible from the street? They'd have to come through the gates or over the fence?
Specifically
Panic
fire
hardware,
department?
Panic hardware would have to be required on the actual gates of the fences themselves, because otherwise, if those gates are ever closed and somebody exits the building and then can't get out with panic hardware, push hardware, then it's a fire hazard, which I would assume Gus would review, but that was gonna be my question, Chris, is if you have panic hardware planned for these gates? Like a push bar, like that's on those
Yeah,
doors.
crash
Crash
bar.
bar.
But I think Chris's, to Chris's point too, is if these gates are closed within the playground area and that's emergency egress, how's the fire department get in? If they're gonna go in through that door, into the existing base basketball court? I think, if I'm not mistaken, is that where you were going with it?
Yeah, just having access for any public resource that may need it.
I don't know, I just, I have reservations of cutting that sidewalk off. That sidewalk's getting used. I'm not a big fan. I'd like to see at least a sidewalk or something cut through there and keep it continuous, because Jen has her plan open, and you have the island, you have sidewalk, then stone, then the island. There's probably enough room to get a 3 or 4 foot walkway by there. I think for security purposes and for feasibility of the site. You don't want to block that whole corner off with just fencing, and assuming the gate's gonna be open and closed, kids play down there, they shut the gates, people don't know, they walk around, they're gonna walk out in the street. I have reservations of cutting that whole corner off myself. I don't think it's a safe situation. I'd like to see the sidewalk at least continued, even if it's slung out, and that would go to DPW because it's within the road takings, correct, Amy? If the sidewalk
If they were to touch,
get,
yeah, if they were to go on, as Amanda touched on, about extending past the fence, any of that they don't own would have to go through the town.
yeah, and I think just people walking in the general area, walk down that too. Even if it's public property or private property, they still walk down it, even though there is a sidewalk across the street too. I just get a little concerned with choking off that whole corner with
That's
an
the thing.
enclosure.
The Cottage Street on that side has no sidewalk as it is, from Union all the way down to pick a spot. So, yes, we could do that, and would it be better? But this is our private property here, and again, it's in our best interest to deal with all of those issues of safety. I mean, we deal with kids. So, we're trying to do this because we're a small business trying to make it. And what you're suggesting is, to say beyond the scope is at least the start. Safe. No one can say is more concerned with the safety of our kids than I am. And so, I get what you're saying, that there's a chance that someone could run off the road, and we should put something at the edge of the thing. All right, I accept that. But in terms of running our business, we can't do it if people having to climb a fence, right? We have to deal with that. So, I don't want to put up extra hoops. We know it has to be dealt with, right? The gate has to be accessible. And, it's egress, right? So it's outward, right? People have access, Chris, people have access to the building as they do through the front door.
Yeah, if I can, I think, I don't disagree that people have access. However, it was presented to us as a limited site plan or a site plan before showing an emergency exit that's now being enclosed. So I think much to Chris's point and Jen's comments that just, I guess maybe something from safety folks saying they have no issues with the proposal would solve that issue.
Building department,
And
or
then
fire department. I just,
I think-
like I said, I would like to see this shortened a little bit, just to squeeze a sidewalk by. Even if it's a 3-foot sidewalk, it gives the people a means of walking by on the outside of the fence.
Yeah. And-
Yeah, I actually.
You know, just pull it in 3 feet, and then the pavement can run by the outside of the fence, and then we're not having to worry as much about the gates and, you know, all the other things associated with it, that's all. And you have 1,500 square feet, we'll probably go down to like 1,350 or so, if you pull it in 3 feet based on the length.
Yeah,
Something to that effect.
which sounds like no big deal, except in order to be approved for 20 students for EDC, you need 75 square feet per child. That's why 1,500 is a magic number. So to go to 1,300 now impacts,
I get it, but this is public safety, don't forget. This is
In-
about,
If,
this is
if I
about
may,
people
through the
in the
chair,
area, as well as the people utilizing the building. Go ahead, Amanda.
what I would like to say is, on behalf of Rich, as well, I'm looking at Google Earth right now, and there are no sidewalks on that side of the road. That's really just in front of his property. There's sidewalks across the street. Anybody that utilizes that side of the road, when they're crossing over, from, Saxon on Cottage Street, there is no sidewalks on that side of the street.
Yeah, but you're impeding the whole sidewalk right now with a fence, and you're assuming you're gonna have 2 gates that are gonna be swung open. And if what happened, one of them gets wiped out when it's swung open, now you can't.
But
put the gates
there's,
in there.
there's no pedestrian traffic on that side of the road,
Really?
other than for that property.
Never seen
there-
anybody walk down that sidewalk?
There's a sidewalk on the opposite side on Cottage Street.
I actually have a question.
Sure,
So-
go ahead, Jay.
What is the width between the end of the diagonal parking stalls on the south side of the site and the building?
You're talking about,
No, down on the south part.
Yeah.
Yeah, over there.
yeah, Amanda could address that a little better, she has access to
the fence in the
Where is
building.
it? The south side of the site?
Yeah, so south side of the site, end of the parking stall to the building.
Where the
opposite
existing,
side of our project area.
Yes, correct.
The fence to the building is 30 feet.
Oh, I'm looking for the end of the parking stall.
I'm gonna share this again, hold on. All right, so end of the fence,
The end of the other side of the building, Amanda?
where the
Down here?
dumpster is, existing dumpster.
Yep, end of those parking stalls to the building.
Over here?
Nope, keep
Oh,
going,
down.
south
Down
side.
below, down.
Diagonal.
Yep,
Yeah,
down there.
yep.
Those
Yep.
parking stalls, the diagonal ones,
yep,
what's the distance from the end of those to the building?
from the end of those,
Not enough to squeeze through.
12 feet, 12, yeah, about 12 feet.
So if you assume a 4-foot pathway, that is not a 9-foot aisle. So I don't really know if that's adequate for a vehicle to be passing by a parked car and have someone walking by them.
But
Oh, right.
this isn't where we're looking.
I know, but we're saying is what happens if that gets blocked up top and people have to walk around the other side of the building, which is one of the assertions that was made earlier? I don't think that pathway works.
No, we don't
Right,
want
but
people- we don't want people walking around the entire building, no.
No, but
There's a lot of what if scenarios. And again, if you look at Google Earth on this property, there are no sidewalks over here on this side. There are no sidewalks over here on this side. Their sidewalks are on the opposite side of the street on Cottage Street that residents will be walking down. The only traffic that is typical and standard for this site is accessing this area to get into the building for this property itself.
Right, Amanda, I think the primary concern, which was raised initially, was not so much the street, it's the parking spaces that are on the east side of the site having to potentially go into the street because a gate happens to be closed, or people don't realize it's a gate they can walk through, and/or that your only other means of egress out of that assembly space could potentially be blocked by a fenced-in area. That door that's on the right doesn't exist. That door is.
This
should
one?
be- Yeah, it should be taken off the plan. The wall's closed in is my understanding. So it's the only other means of egress out of that space, the exterior, that we're going into a now fenced area versus being a complete path of exit travel. So I know you're correct, we don't have control over how residents use the area. There's a sidewalk provided the other side of the street. I think our job is to look strictly within the safety of the site itself, yes, within the broader context, but that is the primary concern, at least from my perspective, those two items.
I don't think that works for.
Mr.
No,
Chairman,
you
do you
know-
guys want to kind of put together a list of,
Yeah,
let
I
them
want to hear
kind
back
of
from.
look at what you guys are kind of expecting out of this?
I
then
want to hear back from the
maybe-
building commissioner and fire department.
Maybe have them come back and
Yep.
have it
I
reviewed.
mean, we're not against it, but you gotta make sure it's safe too. That's our main objective, that's all.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just point out that I know, respect what you're saying about no overlap in hours, but right on our very own plan here, it says your youth soccer program hours of operation are from 3:30 to 8:30 PM on weekdays, and it says your hours of existing daycare, 7:30 AM to 3:30 PM. And then it indicates that, let's see, weekdays for your proposed soccer school expansion is 3:30 to 8:30 PM. Parking requirements will be 20 spaces, 15-minute gaps, but one stops, one starts at the same time, so there will be overlap. It's right on the plan. Just,
Yeah, you're looking at the plan, but again, the reality is, we can't do it,
I
right?
understand
Because
the
we understand how
reality
it
versus what
works.
we have on a plan. I'm looking at what we have on the plan, and that's what's been approved. So if that's different than what's reality, then the plan should state what reality really is, not what you can do, because you can do what's on the plan. That's what's been approved. So if you want to, you can operate it in this condition that's on your plan. If you're not, that's another situation. But what I see on your plan is that's what you're proposing. So that's what I'm gonna go by. And if it's different, we can update the plan to say that. Change the hours of operations to reflect that on your plan.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we continue this, we get feedback from building commissioner and fire department in reference to the need of egress to the building, as well as access parallel to the street, just to be safe. And, we'll go from there.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
Amy, what,
Well, I follow up, it's general business, so
yep,
whenever they feel like they would be ready to submit a revised plan, we can
two
put them on
weeks,
the
you
next
think we'll
agenda.
be able to get some work done between building department, fire department?
Yes.
Okay.
If we find that we're unsuccessful, we'll let her know ahead of time.
Okay, no, we appreciate it. It's just a tricky area, that's all. Thank you. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
might, so that concludes our general business. I know that we had 4 public hearings, 3 are now being continued. I just, if you don't mind, continue the 3 and then get to the one that's gonna be heard after, if that's okay with the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. You want to do Uncas Ave first?
Yeah, that would work.
So, all right, so this will be a continuation for a public hearing for Uncas Ave. This will be a special permit site plan application. I understand they're looking for a continuation.
Yes, so January 8th.
You want to go January 8th? Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item of business would have been a public hearing for site plan modification for 10 Kenwood Circle, and I understand they're looking to be continued as well. You want to go the 8th as well?
Yes.
Make a motion to go to January 8th, 2024.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And then continuation of 15 Liberty Way. I believe the site plan application, they're looking for a continuation as well, so we'll go to January 8th as well,
January 22nd.
January 22nd, okay? Okay, January 22nd, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I just want to note that the next public hearing, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
is a brand-new public hearing. It's a special permit and site plan, so all 5 members are involved in the voting. Just let you know.
Yep. Okay, and I guess we'll take our last item of business for tonight would be for 86 Populatic Street. If I could go to Amy.
Can I just make a motion
Sure.
to waive the reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Remind you. You gotta get used to it now.
Time to be in the game.
Game on now, Chris.
Yeah. Okay, so we have in front of us a special permit and site plan for 86 Populatic Street that's in rural residential zoning district. They are looking for short-term rentals, and according to our zoning enforcement officer, that it's required under section 185 attachment 3, 2.21 bed and breakfast. We actually had the owner reach out to us looking for a permit per her, I'm not sure if it's her insurance or anything to rent it out. So by doing that, it requires a special permit. It's kind of the first one that we've ever had in front of us. So it is in front of you. It does call for a roll call vote for approval on if it is to be issued. They've provided their special permit conditions. I've also provided the public hearing notice as well as the abutters.
Okay, good, thank you, Amy. Anybody on the board have any comments or questions?
I'll go. Oh, you want to go first?
Go first.
No.
Beth's been going first on,
Are you sure? Okay, so.
We're gonna be fair.
I read through the findings and I don't think they add any information to this. I think they're quite lacking, in fact, so I kind of went through and did this myself because these don't tell me anything. So, this home is already on Airbnb. So,
Interesting.
yep, found that one. Let's see here. This home is about 5 feet from the abutting home. So there's that. Really kind of for that reason and the fact that it's a single-family home in a single-family home district with a bunch of other single-family homes, I just don't think that fits the character of that neighborhood at all. We have plenty of other places in Franklin that if someone is staying in town and there's someone local, they can stay. There's a number of nice hotels. So I don't think we need to be turning every single-family neighborhood in Franklin into a rental district. So I am thoroughly opposed to this and will be voting no.
Chris?
I agree with a lot of Jay's sentiment. I also found it on Airbnb as well. I have concerns, again, with proximity to the other homes that are right in the cul-de-sac there. It is nice it has lake access, so I'm sure that's one of the advantageous pieces of why this would be on a short-term rental site. The listing says 4 people max, but I find oftentimes that doesn't always end up being the case, which is a problem, particularly with close neighbors. So parking becomes a concern for me in that sense, as well as just general noise. And then other concerns I had were just, how many days or weeks would it be made available? Is it an everyday short-term rental? Is it seasonal only? Those types of things to consider, but overall I have some reservations about the entire application.
Okay, good, thank you. Jen?
My reservations are strictly, really how close this house is to the abutting neighbors and some of the answers about fencing at a deck providing noise separation and things that I think would otherwise be probably found to be not true? Should they actually be explored by an engineer? It's one thing if people put their property on Airbnb and are very far from their neighbors occasionally, but to be allowed to be anything more frequent than that, considering how tight this property is and how close they are to the neighbors, and knowing that neighbors could change over time, even if their current neighbors are their best friends, if that person moves out, then it's a different situation. So I just don't think the site is conducive to constant influx and outflux of guests in that type of use.
Yep, so, pretty much everyone covered everything, but, I guess I'll just kind of tag along with Jay. One of the first things I noticed was the very lack of answers to the special permit findings. Love to have that kind of boosted a little bit to let us, have some legitimate answers. And curious, like what Chris said, if you are having this as an Airbnb, how long, maybe more of a kind of town question, is how long do we limit how long someone can stay in an Airbnb, or is it never ending, that this just becomes a rental unit and it's a long-term Airbnb? And one more question for you is, realizing that the building commissioner sent it based upon his interpretation of our definitions in our town code, a bed and breakfast is very different than an Airbnb situation. So I'm curious how, in the future, or is this really a planning board issue, or is it a variance type situation, because it's, a bed and breakfast is not an Airbnb. I'm really sorry. I don't think we have a definition, and again, the building commissioner sent it along, so obviously if that's his interpretation, okay. But for future, can we think about addressing Airbnbs and
Short-term rentals.
short-term rentals in a grander scheme of things?
Unless that's how the short-term rental is defined or some silly way, or the bed and breakfast or whatnot.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, go ahead.
So currently, the town does not really have any regulations in place for short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs, any of that. It's never been addressed in town. We don't have any regulations on it. It could go anywhere through Board of Health to Building Commissioner to that. The reason why, though, this is in front of you is that the owner requested a permit. And the only way to get a permit was to qualify under a bed and breakfast.
But
Bed and breakfast is a rental place.
It seems
And
like it's almost being
that's what,
needs to be addressed under.
so this is why this is in front of you. But right now, I don't believe the town has a lot of regulations in place to follow all that.
So,
I'd see if,
It seems like in future cases, this will continue to happen, because if you want me to pontificate for a second,
well,
this is most likely required. by
my
the
understanding is the homeowner needed it for insurance purposes, whether or not, we have not seen this yet. This is the first time that's come in front of us. I don't know if the applicant is online that also could kind of elaborate.
can I just, Mr. Chairman, follow up on that? If it's something we don't technically have regulations for, but they're being sent to us because they need something for their insurance purposes, for me, it just doesn't seem like we're the right people to do that. And I have a really hard time saying yes or no to something that could really set everybody, not everybody, a lot of people wanting to do this. So I don't know if we're the right people for insurance purposes to give a permit, because we don't technically allow it. So that's not us. So I have a hard time with this one, I really do.
We want to see if the applicant's online to
Yeah, well,
elaborate a little bit.
you heard about the Airbnb in California, right? The one who moved in, she didn't move out for like 2.5 years later. So, just to say that's how Airbnbs work.
No, my concern is just turning all of town into a short-term
Yeah,
rental. We're
correct.
We have places that you can get a short-term rental in Franklin.
Sure.
We have hotels here, we have a few of them.
I mean, 100%
So-
respect having an Airbnb, and if we have appropriate regulations for those in town, I have zero issues saying, come before the board, get a permit, but I don't think we're the right board.
No, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm the same thing as everybody else. I mean, you have a
Yeah.
neighbor that's 5 feet away. It's not the appropriate.
Yeah, do we want to
Location,
see
do-
if the applicant is online to further explain
Sure.
anything?
Can try, but
I don't know.
I'm not quite sure.
I don't-
This is the,
I don't see the name.
like
No, I
Beth
did not see
said,
the
I don't
applicant.
think this is the,
Um,
well, I mean, we could vote no, and they can find their way through, and I think that's what we should do tonight.
If
We take a
Mm,
vote.
I mean,
We say no
it's up to
based
the
on our
board.
thoughts, and they can take it to another road.
Before we go down the path of voting no on something, as we know can always be challenging, can we continue this and get some additional
Yeah, when we ask Attorney
information
Sorrell.
from
We-
Attorney Sorrell?
We can do that as well too, sure.
The other concern I have too, and I agree with Beth in this, is that a bed and breakfast implies that there's management of some way, shape, or form on site.
Correct.
And Airbnb does not have that. VRBO, Vacasa, whatever it is, it's all digital check-in. I'm sure there's cleaning staff that comes by, but whether there's a live-in or there's a manager that comes in the morning to make the breakfast of the bed, someone's there very early in the morning to see that everything has been done above board with the guests that are there on site. And barring, no matter where you go, people do things and maybe the police get called, whatever, that happens. But that's a very different operation than a short-term rental operation. So I think that hospice itself, just let's consider it and figure it out, but something should be changed in the bylaws.
So we make a motion to continue it, but based on Mr.
Based on
Sorrell's
what?
comments of if this
I
is the
don't-
appropriate board to make the decision.
Given that it's a special permit in front of the planning board, I don't know if we're gonna get a lot of regulations from, because the special permit is pretty much up to the planning board to make that decision, without specific, questions. I know that the findings you're lacking the answers of. You don't think it fits with the characteristics of the neighborhood. So,
So Amy, I think the specific question we're asking before moving anything towards a denial
mhm.
is, I guess maybe just, can Attorney Sorrell weigh in on, and if he already has, and that's fine, but can you weigh in on whether an Airbnb or whatever they are, VRBOs, are short-term rentals or bed and breakfasts? That definition is clear as to what a bed and breakfast is, and this is not a bed and breakfast. So I guess, I think the question is, can we just have a little clarification if the board should be moving forward with this as a B&B, or a bed and breakfast?
So your question is an Airbnb a short-term rental?
Yeah.
Is
It
a
can
short-term
be.
rental a bed and breakfast?
Yeah.
What?
Is a
Well,
short-term rental a bed and breakfast is the question.
It just doesn't seem.
We're
It's
being-
issuing a special permit for a bed
being
and breakfast,
presented
not a
as-
short-term rental.
Yeah, we're.
It's being presented as bed and breakfast, which therefore somebody's there to manage it, like Chris was saying.
But then they can
Our-
also run a bed and breakfast there, they can have someone.
Our
manage it, you know?
definition,
So-
our definition of a
Yep.
bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
just for everyone's reference, that's a residential character building containing at least 2 and no more than 10 bedrooms for daily rental. At least 1 full bathroom facility is required for every 2 rented bedrooms. Bed and breakfast may contain facilities for preparing and serving food for guests renting bedrooms. However, food service facilities will be limited to occupancy of bedrooms plus 5 additional seats.
mhm.
It doesn't even have enough bedrooms. It's
There's only one bed in this home.
It's
so
not
it doesn't-
even-
it doesn't
even
qualify.
So- I was gonna say, if I go to Attorney Sorrell, he'll go right to the definition. That'll be the first thing he'll say.
And
I'm
it
gonna look at the
doesn't qualify.
definition.
Doesn't qualify
Doesn't
because this
qualify.
is not
We just
2
get him to
bedrooms.
weigh in on that would be helpful, I think is what we're asking.
I mean, especially this being the first one, because if this is the first, Lord knows there'll be others to follow, if we
Mhm.
follow it correctly, or
If you
Yeah.
really think
I
about it,
mean,
yeah.
based on what I've seen.
Got World Cup coming up in Shirley, and people will want to
Sure.
rent out for.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I will.
It would also, like, as an aside, this is probably a bigger discussion about our bylaws and getting some verbiage in there about
Correct.
short-term rentals versus the definition
And
of the
doing that, as
bed and
Beth
breakfast and,
acutely pointed out, before the World Cup.
correct,
well, you know how things
Just
move,
about.
I don't know how that's gonna happen.
yeah, so.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on, the continuation duration?
To the next meeting?
Wanna go
Yeah.
20, yeah, okay. You really don't wanna load up the 8th, huh? Okay.
Then I'll put 5.
Okay, so I make a motion to continue 86 Popular Attic
Before
Street.
you continue, can we just ask that the applicant be available at the next meeting too for any questions?
Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks, sorry.
Continue 86 Popular Attic Street to January 8th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any comments, questions? I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday and a safe year.
You too.
We'll see you all next year.
I just want to say also, great job to the town department today, you know, trees and roads and everything, it was crazy out there, so it was
Yep,
a lot of good work out there.
Good job to Mike and Brutus and the crew.
Amy, has there been any notice or information on whether we have any folks that have additionally applied for the associate?
I've not had any updates yet,
Okay.
so I will follow up on that. I'll put that on my list to follow up on. Reminder, master plan survey, it's closing down January 3rd, so please, everybody,
Chance to win a gift card,
yes, it's all over town, QR codes, please
$100.
do the survey. Yes, you have a chance of winning one of two of $100 gift cards to a local place, so it's worth your time.
Thank you, Amy.
It's less than 10 minutes to take the survey, so it's not too long.
And Jay had something to say?
I noticed as I was driving by Taj 2 this weekend that the retaining wall was quite failing.
Yeah, I was gonna actually comment on that, but I was.
Yeah,
gonna
it's
comment
not
on
doing
that.
so high.
No, it's a brand new wall ready to lean.
I would assume that the building commissioner is all over this.
And if not, I was gonna say
Yes.
Put them
Beta,
all over, it looks bad.
Mhm.
Beta and the structural engineers from Beta to look at it, cause it's leaning.
No, so it's actually, retaining walls is done through our zoning commissioner, not through Beta.
I want them to look at it structurally.
Mm-hmm.
Structural engineer, actually.
Have
I
the
don't-
structural engineers. from
Yeah, no,
Beta
that needs like a
review it.
geotech. That's beyond structures. The ground is toasted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that's
Should probably save it
So-
for the next agenda
Yeah.
since it's not on this one, or is that?
Just
I mean, that's
just
just
a
like
point
a-
of reference,
Yeah.
just to.
Put it on the next agenda?
I just wanted
Well-
to make sure that
I'd like to give it some time because I think that, I wanna reach out before I bring anybody in here
Of
and,
course.
No, because I saw people
I will
working
put the
this
word
weekend
out.
next to the wall, and I was like, oh, come on.
Well,
Mhm.
I have a question. I don't know, maybe this probably isn't under our purview, but, no, it's not. Never mind. Site safety, just generally.
Well, that's what worried me
No,
about it,
no,
was the site
not
safety
not
aspect of it.
That's your
construction
building
site.
commissioner.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
building
the
commissioner,
building
yeah.
But still,
Yep.
that's not under our purview, but.
but the reason why I was gonna bring it up is because the foundation's partially in, so you're gonna lose access to it rather quick. So I think it needs to be addressed sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want Beta to review the whole structural engineering end of it now.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great Christmas,
Are we
everybody.
going to Christmas
Happy
beer?
I have my mom at my house right now, so I
So we'll
am
go
not
out and
able
mail
to
your
do
mom.
that. Come on over.